terror attack. Nation remembers Pelgam attack victims. Prime Minister Modi pays tribute, says they will never be forgotten. And stunning air show on Sultanpur Expressway. IAF demonstrates landing and takeoff capabilities on highway. Mirage 2000, C295 and Jaguar air prowess on display. We're starting on with some breaking news right now. Tensions on the Strait of Hormuz continues to heat up as two ships have now been seized by the Iranian Navy. This is in addition to the seized ships. 3 vessels have also been struck, including a Greek ship called Euphoria. Let's go across to my colleague Vishnu for more on this. Vishnu, as the ceasefire deadline has been extended, we see Iran being adamant and defiant there and attacking various vessels and ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
No, Rahesha, if you ask me, this is just an incredible, addition to the crisis that we've seen now for well more than 40 days. Iran is now attacking ships. Remember what had happened earlier on. What had happened earlier on was that Iran had said that with the ceasefire, they are going to open up the Strait of Hormuz and allow ships to go through. Then, of course, America imposed an embargo, or it blocked ships from going into Iranian ports and coming out of Iranian ports, to which Iran has now responded saying that, no, look, this doesn't work this way. We are going to be targeting, ships which we had earlier said could go across the Strait of Hormuz. They're also doing this because an Iranian ship was targeted by the Iranian Navy, and so by the US Navy. And so what they've done today is that there was first a Greek ship named Euphoria, which was targeted by the Revolutionary Guard. So that's ship number 1. And then there were 2 other ships, the MSC Francesca and the Epaminodas, belonging to the shipping giant MSC. Both of these ships intended to enter Strait of Hormuz and were attacked. Now, significantly, these ships, it is understood, have been asked to drop anchor off the coast of Iran, and they have effectively been seized at this stage. So that's the news that we have. Now, this will send a lot of people, a lot of insurers, make them extremely worried about the conditions in the Strait of Hormuz and whether or not these giant tankers and super tankers can in fact operate.
Right, Vishnu, while of course there were various sticking points between both US and Iran, but at this point of time, like you also pointed out, Iran seizing 2 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, various vessels also being attacked. Talk to us more about how the Strait of Hormuz is now becoming the new war zone in the ongoing war, and how do you see the situation panning out at this point of time, with Iran also saying that we did not ask for any ceasefire?
Look, the fact of the matter is that Iran seems absolutely clear that if there is a ceasefire, that's good. If there is no ceasefire, that's good. Remember, the US President Donald Trump has increased the ceasefire, the duration of that. There isn't any hard rule on when that's going to end. Trump has said that he needs to give the Iranians more time to figure things out before the next round of peace talks. So that's welcome at one stage. But as far as the Iranians are concerned, there are those in Iran who believe that they are in the ascendancy as far as this war is concerned. Iran has always been fighting an existential battle. They believe that they are now going to exist in one way, shape or form. They do believe that they can call the shots in the Strait of Hormuz. The fact that they have targeted these 3 ships, they have seized at least 2 of them, is a huge escalation in this entire scenario, because what this effectively means is that no ship is going to go in or go out unless they accept Iran's terms. And of course, Iran doing this after the US Navy, which was targeting Iranian ships going in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. They went and attacked an Iranian tanker, to which this is the reaction from the Iranians. So what does this mean? There's a US blockade, there is an Iranian blockade. Iran had earlier said that all ships could come through. Right. They have now stopped that, and all Iranian ships going up and down the Strait of Hormuz have been stopped by the Americans.
Right, Vishnu, absolutely. And things only escalated after USS Provence seized Iranian vessel MV Tuska. But thanks very much for sharing insights with us right now. Staying on with how the Strait of Hormuz has now emerged as the latest flashpoint in the ongoing war, because the Strait of Hormuz remains on the boil. Iran has so far attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, opened fire on another vessel, sharply escalating tensions in one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. Well, according to the UK Maritime Trade Operations Centre, the vessel was fired upon without prior warning early this morning, further damaging the ship's bridge. Now, this dramatic development comes just hours after US President Donald Trump announced an indefinite extension of the ceasefire with Iran. This incident now raises fresh concerns over the fragile truce and also the future of global shipping through Hormuz, a route that carries nearly 1/5 of the world's oil trade and has also now emerged as the latest flashpoint in the ongoing war. Let's now tell you more about the Hormuz escalation timeline first. Since round 1 of talks, which took place on April 12th, US announced naval blockade of Iran. Then, on April 18th, 2 Indian flag tankers were attacked by Iran. April 19th, Iranian cargo ship, that just 2 days ago, Iranian cargo ship MV Tuska was intercepted by US. That's the USS Provence vessel, which fired several rounds at the Iranian vessel MV Tuska. Then on April 21st, Iranian cargo Iran-linked tanker MT Tifani was also detained by the United States of America. And on April 22nd, Iran attacked 3 ships after the ceasefire extension was announced by the US President Donald Trump. Let's now tell you about the US blockade impact, because Trump has announced an indefinite blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. First up, US says 28 Iranian vessels forced to turn back, but reports suggest that 34 Iranian tankers bypassed the blockade. So at this point of time, this is where things stand. The Strait of Hormuz emerging as the latest flashpoint in the ongoing war. Remember, at least 20% of the global trade route passes through this strait. Meanwhile, in other news, even though US President Donald Trump has extended the ceasefire until a deal is agreed upon, the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz remains in place. The US president issued a statement slamming Iran and said that the Islamic Republic was collapsing financially and was losing close to $500 million a day. Trump further said that it was actually Iran that wanted the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened immediately. Iran, meanwhile, has called out Trump over the blockade and said that the Hormuz siege is no different than bombardment. Iran has also warned Trump and said that any seizure will be met with a strong military response. Let's go across to my colleague Pradeep Datta, joining me live from Tel Aviv in Israel. Pradeep, while the ceasefire has been extended, the Strait of Hormuz has now emerged as the latest flashpoint in the ongoing war. Talk to us more about the impact that this will have in global trade, and what is the perspective there from Israel? That's from where you're joining us live.
See, Resha, you're absolutely right. In fact, the Strait of Hormuz has become the new war zone so far as the situation in the West Asia is concerned, because we have seen that how the conflict has morphed into a battleground of competitive blockade. There is a blockade versus blockade, naval blockade from the American side, and also blockade from the Iranian side. And not only that, there is also another problematic thing. The another problematic thing is that now there is a tit-for-tat attack. Initially, we saw that how US was able to take one of the Iranian ships into custody. And after that, Iran simply closed this Strait of Hormuz. They say that there can't be any kind of a negotiation till this naval blockade is over. And now we have seen that this morning, there had been 3 attempts to stop the ship from moving towards the Iranian side, and in the Strait of Hormuz. The 2 of the ships had been taken in custody just hours after the unilaterally the ceasefire was announced by US President Donald Trump. One of the ships was even targeted by Iranian naval guards. They opened fire, damaging that vessel. So that clearly the situation is not that good. And you rightly said that the blockade of Strait of Hormuz is definitely going to disrupt it's going to disrupt the movement of oil and natural gas. Already we have seen that the crude oil prices have gone high. It's going to increase inflation rate. Internationally, Monetary Fund has already raised red flag that situation are going to deteriorate further if the Strait of Hormuz is not open. So right now, many people feel that this is the nuclear weapon that right now Iran is holding, and that nuclear weapon is nothing but Strait of Hormuz, because they are having the control over the situation because of geography. They dominate that area, and it's really getting difficult for each and every country to navigate ships from there. So now to be seen whether blockade versus blockade is really going to work, because so far as US is concerned, what they are trying to do is they are to choke this revenue lifeline of the regime, because they feel it is from this money that they are able to sustain war. Second,
Right,
they feel that once the money will not go there, that automatically they are able to defang 3 of their proxies, Hamas, Houthis, and Hezbollah. And the third will that they are going to have an impact on manufacture of ballistic missile. Let's see how long it will take. But right now, the situation continues to remain grim.
Right, absolutely, Pradeep. Thanks for getting us the latest there from Tel Aviv in Israel. So at this point of time, we'll tell you about the impact of the Hormuz conundrum, because on one hand, we've seen how the US has announced the naval blockade around the Strait of Hormuz. On the other hand, we do know that Iran is attacking at least 3 ships and vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. So what is the impact, the repercussions of the Hormuz conundrum? First up, it is that the oil flow has been majorly disrupted with the Strait of Hormuz being locked. Second, this is further leading to fuel prices increase, as we've seen massive prices increase in fuel across the country, which also leads to inflation pressure across the world because of the increase of fuel prices. Then, we do know that Strait of Hormuz is extremely critical for world shipping routes. So, with the blockade there, it's also leading to shipping delays around the world, with various vessels bound to take longer routes. The other impact is that flight tickets have also become extremely expensive due to the Hormuz blockade there. The goods have become costlier. And lastly, economic growth has also slowed down. We say that because Strait of Hormuz, which has emerged as the most critical flashpoint when it comes to any kind of ceasefire between Iran and the United States of America, is extremely important. It carries a major trade route. It goes through the Strait of Hormuz. But we do know earlier, Trump has been adamant on Iran reopening the Strait of Hormuz, but Iran has clearly is clearly defined on the fact that it will not let US or its allies or any kind of vessels from Israel to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Moving on, at this point of time, a global jet fuel crunch has triggered by rising prices and supply fears is now forcing airlines across continents to cut flights. According to aviation analytics firm Cirium, 19 of the world's 20 largest airlines have cut flights for May. The firm says this is driven by increasing jet fuel prices and supply uncertainty linked to the Iran conflict. So, which airlines are these? Let's break that down for you in the next few minutes. First, we have Lufthansa. Reports suggest that major airline Lufthansa is ready to cut 20,000 flights to save fuel. This is all because of the Hormuz conundrum that we are facing. Then, the second airline is Ryanair. The airline CEO has said that its fuel supply in Europe could be at risk by the May-June period if the conflict does not come to an end and it continues. The airline is already mulling route reductions as well. So that's the second airline. The third airline we have is KLM. The flag carrier of the Netherlands, on April 17th, it said that it is cancelling 80 return flights from Amsterdam. It said this decision was taken because routes are no longer financially viable due to high fuel costs because of the ongoing war. The fourth airline is a Scandinavian airline, is also slashing 1,000 flights, mostly short haul. That's SAS, the Scandinavian airline. And lastly, Aer Lingus is also adjusting schedules, with reports suggesting 500-plus flight cuts as well. Now, this is perhaps a multi-country disruption, mostly centered in Europe. But do you wonder why? Because European airlines are more exposed to volatile fuel import costs. According to reports, jet fuel prices have risen from $90 per barrel before the war to $200 per barrel. That's more than double. Airlines operate on thin margins, so even small spikes hurt. Listen in to all the reactions that are coming in on this story.
We have before us the possibility, and I stress the word possibility, of a shortage in transport fuel. This evolving geopolitical crisis in the Middle East has highlighted that Europe may have a short-term issue in supply of fuel, okay? And this we need to discuss. For this we need to be aware. But we also have in the midterm, the middle term and the long term, a demand issue. And this needs to be neutralized. To be clear, what I want to say is that we need to be ready to avoid queues at the gas stations if this ever happens.
All right, so what do holidaymakers do this summer? Will Indian fares double soon? Let's now take you to some of the big questions that stare at us with the jet fuel crisis. Question number one is, what do holidaymakers do this summer with various airlines increasing their ticket prices? Second, will Indian fares soon double? Because at this point of time, we've seen the Indian government controlling and taking care of all that's happening because of the Iran-Israel war. The third question is budget travel now dead as well? And can Indian carriers survive this major disruption? All right, to listen in to some of, we heard about the major reactions coming in on this. Let's move on to other stories now. At this point of time, US President Donald Trump has extended the ceasefire with Iran till Iran submits a proposal. In his statement, Trump attacked the Iranian government, calling them seriously fractured. He said that Iran military is in bottom of the sea while the country is in tatters. He announced that no attacks will be made on Iran till talks progress, but US military will remain in place. Meanwhile, Iran has mocked Trump for extending the ceasefire by saying losing side cannot dictate terms, and Trump's announcement of ceasefire means nothing to us.
مذاکره تو خواهی کردن که فعلا هر زمانی که مذاکره با قوت دشمن ما قبول کرد که ما از موضع برنده ایم و او موضع بازنده قبول کرد شرایط ما را حضور پیدا کنند، مردم ما مردم بصیری اند. هر زمانی که با نظر ولایت میدان جنگ ما از میدان موشکی به میدان مذاکره تبدیل شد، این مردم امروز حمایت هم میکنن. مردمی که اهل
سخنگوی قرارگاه مرکزی خاتم الانبیا در پی تهدیدهای مکرر رئیس جمهور امریکا و فرماندهان ارتش متجاوز و تروریست این کشور با تأکید بر آمادگی کامل هشدار داد نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی ایران در صورت تجاوز و هر گونه اقدام علیه ایران اسلامی بلافاصله به اهداف از پیش تعیین شده قدرتمندانه هجوم می‌آورند و به امریکای متجاوز و رژیم کودککش صهیونیستی شدیدتر از قبل درس عبرت دیگری خواهند داد.
There's still a war there. We have to be conscious of that. There is a ceasefire, and luckily I learned that it has been extended, but we are in a state of war. The situation of the Strait will inevitably need to be solved in conjunction with the others, because the freedom of passage has become a bargaining chip between the sides because of the underlying tensions. So inevitably that will have to be addressed in conjunction with other problems. But of course we need to assure freedom of navigation. It is essential for world economy. It is essential for all.
All right, we're getting some breaking news at this point of time, and this is some statement coming out from Iran. Its multiple forces and the popular Basij, they have said that we are ready to create achievements and shocking events far beyond the comprehension and calculation of the enemy. The statement said that IRGC is at the peak of readiness and determination to continue the battle against the enemies and is ready for decisive, certain and immediate confrontation with any threat or repetition of enemy aggression. And this is, it further goes on to say, in a new round of possible military battle, we will inflict crushing blows beyond the enemy's imagination on the remaining assets in the region. That's the big statement, big warning coming out of Iran. Statement released by IRGC there. Let's go across to my colleague Pradeep Datta, joining me live from Tel Aviv in Israel. Pradeep, Trump has announced an extension of the ceasefire, but but Iran perhaps remains defiant. On one hand, it is attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz. On the other, Iran has said that we are ready for any kind of eventuality and to stand up against any kind of aggression from the enemy, which is Israel and the United States of America. My question to you is, how do you see the situation panning out in the next few days with Iran being adamant on not ending the war?
See, right now, what one gets to know that war has pushed Iran towards two power centers. Earlier, it was a supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who used to decide, and every word was of his was taken as a was abided by each and every person there. But now what is happening is that on one side is the political class, on the other side is the hardline military class, because the military class is not ready for any kind of concession. For them, diplomacy means surrender, and they are not ready for that. That was the reason that they have rejected the proposal of Trump from American side, because they feel that America has already lost the war. So listening to them is like listening to the defeatist country, and they can't dictate us term. That's what actually they feel. They feel that right now they are in the commanding position. So Iran is not only coming out with a provocative statement, they stand defiant, and also they are mocking out right now at United States of America. They feel that more than Iran, it is US that wants ceasefire. So it is US that has come on knees. That's what impression that Iran is trying to create. But one thing is quite clear, that right now the Iranian regime is fractured, it is fragmented, because there are different points of view. So there are people who do not want diplomacy to be given a chance because they feel concession is like surrender. So they do not want any kind of a surrender before the United States of America. That's why they have come out with a statement that any kind of aggression will be dealt strongly. They are going to hit hard United States of America, where it is going to hurt the most. That's exactly what they are trying to convey right now. So things seem to getting more complex and complicated with each passing day. Let's see how things are really going to unfold. Better sense should prevail among both the countries, that they come and sit on the talking table, because India has rightly said, at the end of the day, what is really important is three-dimensional formula. That is de-escalation, dialogue, and diplomacy, not death, destruction, and devastation that war can lead to.
Right, Pradeep, absolutely. At a time when tense truce is in effect, Iran has threatened the US. But stay with us, Pradeep. We'll come back to you shortly. But let's tell our viewers about how this fragile ceasefire was extended. How perhaps did the US President Donald Trump announce that ceasefire extension? So first up is that the talks between US and Iran, it hit a deadlock because there was no response from Iran on the US proposal, and there was no team Iran reaching Pakistan for round 2.0 talks. Hence, the second pointer is that there was complete silence from Tehran during the time when the ceasefire had to extend. Now, US has come out and said that there's a major leadership crisis in Iran. US has flagged internal divisions within Iran and has said that there is no unified stand in Iran. We don't know who to talk to in Iran. That's what the United States of America has said. But the third aspect is the ceasefire strategy. So the extension clearly means that the US President Donald Trump is buying time. Has told Iran to align internally. So that's the next pointer. Lastly, the reality check here is that there is no guarantee that Iran will reach consensus or any kind of negotiations with the United States of America. At this point of time, it's day 53 of the ongoing war, and this is perhaps the ceasefire extension is a pause and not a complete and not for peace yet. Let's tell you more about this, and let's tell you more about the ongoing war. But we'll go back to our second aspect in moments from now. Let's go across to my colleague Pradeep Datta for more on this. Pradeep, the ceasefire has of course been extended, but there is perhaps no guarantee that there will be any kind of consensus from Iran. We do know Iran is attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has issued that latest ultimatum to the US. Talk to us more about what are the options on Iran's table, and where do you see Israel fitted in all of this? Because we do know that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had clearly said that the war is not over.
See, what exactly is happening is that even after 50 days of war, more than 50 days of war, we have seen that the two sticking points and the flashpoint remain. One, opening of Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz was opened before war started, but now it is blocked, and already it has led to economic disruption. And the second sticking point remains, that is about the enriched uranium stockpile. Iran has already made it clear that they are not going to hand over enriched uranium to United States of America. That means 40 kgs of enriched uranium will remain in Iran. That means they will continue with their ambition of getting nuclear weapon. So that is not what actually United States would really like to have. So they will keep on insisting that you will have to give up your nuclear ambition and you will have to hand over that enriched uranium to them. But Iran has made it clear that it's as sacred to them as their soil. So this question doesn't arise. The second is the opening of Strait of Hormuz, because they know this is a trump card to them. Because of the geography, they enjoy the dominance of that area, and they continue to further maintain the dominance because they feel somewhere they have brought all the ships and the world to screeching halt. So here they want to use this position so that next time, if ever, they think of sitting on the talking table, they are in a better position to negotiate with United States of America. So the situation seems to be very complex, complicated, and the coming hours are going to be very critical, and one has to take a cautious approach to the situation, how things are really going to unfold.
Absolutely. The next few days is extremely crucial. Thanks for getting us the latest as the war unfolds. Strait of Hormuz has become the latest choke point in the ongoing war. Let's now tell our viewers about what are Iran's options right now, because we do know Iran is attacking various vessels in the Strait of Hormuz on one hand and has also issued an ultimatum to the US on the other. So what exactly are Iran's options? Number one, negotiate a deal. Primary option is to take part in the talks with the United States of America, perhaps in Pakistan yet again. Second, playing the Hormuz card, which Iran is doing at this point of time. We say that because leverage Hormuz reopening for naval blockade. The third option that Iran might have is military countermeasures. Now, military response, that's the third pointer about the military countermeasures that Iran perhaps can take right now. Military response to the US naval blockade, and Iran perhaps retaliates to any kind of attack from the US and Israel. The next option could be wait it out. Perhaps Iran could test US's resolve and play on the war fatigue, perhaps to lead a situation of where there's perhaps being called a war of attrition between both the sides. Well, NDTV is on ground, not just in Israel, but also in Beirut. Take a look at all these ground reports filed by my colleague Ghazali.
What is your assessment of the ceasefire which was enforced on 16th of April? What is the situation on the ground, particularly in the south of Lebanon?
Thanks for having me. Since the ceasefire, the most of the fighting that was raging actually before the ceasefire has stopped. Most of the fighting, not all. We still see some trajectory or projectiles coming from the Israeli side, but there is no such thing going from the north to the south. We have not recorded airstrikes, but we have seen some drone strikes. There is no ground combat that we had seen before that has stopped since the ceasefire. It's a welcome sign, but of course this is temporary, and I think this is the moment, this is the time to turn this into a kind of more broader and comprehensive arrangement between the two countries.
Sir, the UNIFIL has its presence in Lebanon near the southern border for the last few decades by now. But a very unfortunate incident happened just a couple of days ago. We heard it from the UNIFIL itself that one of the soldiers of French origin was killed in Manduria village in the southern part of Lebanon. Can you conclude that who was responsible for that killing?
I cannot say anything conclusively at the moment because the mission has launched an official investigation. It was a very tragic, unfortunate incident. Not just the first, actually, in the past few weeks, this is the third such incident leading to the deaths of 4 of our peacekeepers in total, and injuring, of course, a number of others. This also, this is the characterization in a way. This is the symbolization of how difficult and challenging the situation in South Lebanon is. Actually, the peacekeepers that got targeted that day were on their way to, they were operating in an area where the roads were infested with mines and explosive ordnances. So they were at that time clearing one of such explosive that they identified, and to open the road to another UN position to go there.
Well, my colleague Ghazali also reported from an area in South Lebanon. Remember, Lebanon is also heated up, with the IDF also announcing various attacks in southern Lebanon. Here's a ground report by my colleague Ghazali.
Behind me, you can see this is the mosque and a graveyard which is lying in tatters after Israeli attack. This we are reporting from Mansouriya city in the South Lebanon, which is very close to Israeli border as well. And right behind me on the top of those hills, if you see, this is the area which has been occupied by Israel. So this is almost in the firing line. The resistance force in Lebanon, they are also carrying out rescue efforts, the reconstruction work, clearing the debris here. What is more astonishing is that this particular area also comes under the UNIFIL, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, which is there for peacekeeping. But even their movement is being monitored or regulated by the IDF here. UNIFIL has complained that IDF is not allowing their forces or their convoy to move freely in this particular area for the peacekeeping mission. But the visuals here suggest that perhaps despite the ceasefire being brokered between the two parties, Israel continues to occupy the villages here. People, this particular area or the city called Mansouriya is a ghost town now. My camera person will show you all these houses behind me over here. If you see, this is what it has witnessed in the last 40 days of war. Continuous attack from the Israeli side, and all these people in the villages have evacuated their homes. They have moved to the northern region, but not one house is here which is standing without any damage or not having brunt the entire impact of this war. And right now we are being told that this area is also very much close to the Israeli border or the other villages which have become the part of yellow line or the buffer zone which Israel has created inside the Lebanese territory. Right now the resistance forces are coordinating for this visit to show the extent of damage which this particular village has seen in the last 40 days of war. Ceasefire has been announced. Talks in Islamabad are still uncertain whether that will continue between Iran and United States in Islamabad and all the residents here.
All right, with Iran conflict continuing into the 7th week, multiple reports suggest that the missile stockpile of the United States is depleting and that the US may be heading towards a situation of critical shortage. Here's more.
A 7-week war with Iran may have significantly dwindled the US missile stockpile. An NBC report has suggested the United States may be facing a critical shortage of advanced missiles. Nearly half of some of America's most advanced precision munitions have already been used, raising alarms about the country's readiness for future conflicts, creating what experts are calling a near-term risk. Roughly 50% of THAAD and Patriot air defense interceptors have been used. Around 45% of precision strike missiles are gone. Meanwhile, about 30% of Tomahawk cruise missiles and 20% of other long-range systems have also been used. Experts say this rapid drawdown highlights a growing challenge, what some are calling the missile math problem. It typically takes a few years to replenish these stockpiles and even longer to build them to necessary levels. Despite these concerns, the Pentagon is projecting confidence, insisting the US military has everything it needs to execute operations. Bureau Report, NDTV.
Well, on that note, we slip into a very short break, but come right back. News and updates continues here on NDTV 24/7. Hours after Trump extends truce, says
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी। a special edition of the Walk the Talk with public intellectual Shwapan Das Gupta doing this Gali Gali, Mohalla Mohalla. This is not quite what people associate with you.
In political life, if you don't do this, I will say Shwapan Das Gupta, BJP candidate, then you're missing out on the these things.
TMC's been appealing to this regional pride, Bengali pride.
I am as much a meat eater or a fish eater as anyone else.
Religion has never been central to West Bengal politics. The BJP seems to be trying hard to change that.
Large number of Bengalis see themselves, apart from being Bengalis, also as Hindus.
How do you respond to the charge leveled by the Trinamool that the BJP is fighting this election in alliance with the Election Commission?
10 people only voted in West Bengal.
कुछ बड़ा होने वाला है।
Namaskar, I'm Shashi Paja. Please vote for me.
As she crisscrosses the paras of North Kolkata, can the Trinamool hold on to its bastion or will Didi be bested by the BJP? As people assess the 15-year track record of your government, the fact that there's been petty corruption prevalent in a key part of the system.
Of course, we have reprimanded them and they have been taken to book.
Himanta Biswa Sarma has been able to set up or get the process started of bringing semiconductor industry into a state like Assam.
Industrial giants are somehow demotivated to come to Bengal.
In and around Kolkata, that the Trinamool has been able to push the BJP's challenge, unlike North Bengal. The BJP thinks this election that will change.
When North Bengal tried to pay the communal card, you wiped away 50% of the electorate.
It is Khalaobe again in Bengal. Who will win this power play? Track Battleground Bengal with me, Tausif Ahmed Khan, only on NDTV.
Elections are a game of strategy. I will break down the moves, the match, and the momentum that decide.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime 5 with me, Raisha Sehgal. In other news, in Mumbai, a moment of raw public anger is now going viral and raising serious questions about accountability. A woman stuck for hours in a massive traffic jam in Worli confronted the Maharashtra minister Girish Mahajan during a political rally that brought large parts of the city to a standstill. The rally was organized by the BJP. It had drawn hundreds of participants, but delays in its start led to severe gridlock across one of Mumbai's busiest stretches. Frustrated and trying to reach a child, the woman stepped out of a car, walked straight into the middle of the march and directly challenged the minister. In heated exchange, she questioned why political rallies are allowed to choke public roads, pointing to an empty ground nearby and asking why the protest could not be held there instead. Her anger spilled over to the police as well, as she accused them of failing to manage traffic and demanded to speak to senior officers. The confrontation was eventually diffused, but the video has since spread rapidly online.
When are you moving? There is an empty ground there. Go shout there. Now. No, what is wrong with you? There are hundreds of people waiting. There is an empty ground there. There is an empty ground. Yes.
All right, you heard that. But on the other hand, Maharashtra Minister Girish Mahajan has now reacted to the video of a woman shouting at him for blocking the road. Take a look.
पुलिस ने उनके साथ में कोई जास्ती नहीं की। मैंने पुलिस को भी कहा कोई उसको कुछ रोकना नहीं है। हमारी महिला भी थोड़ी गुस्सा हो गई कि जिस भाषा को प्रयोग करी थी उससे महिला भी हमारी गुस्सा हो गई थी कि आपके लिए महिलाओं के लिए हमने आंदोलन किया है। तो मैंने उनको भी समझाया, हमारे बाकी मेरे सहयोगी थे उन्होंने भी समझाया कि भाई चलो ठीक है, उनका गुस्सा जायज़ है, हम कुछ ना बोलें। पुलिस को भी कहा, महिला पुलिस भी थी वहाँ पर, हमने कहा आप कुछ नहीं बोलेंगे। हमने ये भी कहा है वहाँ पे, हमने पूरा शांति से ही हम वहाँ पर लिया है, लेकिन उनका गुस्सा बहुत था और उस गुस्से में वो बहुत ज़्यादा ही बोल चुके, ये भी बात सही है।
All right, my colleague Anuj is now joining me live from Mumbai. Anuj, this incident of that lady who's been trying to reach her child, was stuck in traffic for hours due to a political rally in Worli, has spread rapidly online. But talk to us more about how the political rallies has further, struck everyday, day-to-day work of common citizens.
Prayesh, just to give a bit of context of what this rally was about, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis had announced that the Bharatiya Janata Party would carry out a rally against the opposition, for the defeat of the women's reservation come the delimitation bill. And as a result of that, they were going to carry out this rally, which saw the presence of hundreds of women, which eventually ended with the speech of the Chief Minister. While this rally started from Worli's Jamburi Maidan and ended at Worli's Dome, in between, of course, we saw this confrontation happen, the videos of which have been making rounds on social media. What is important to understand is that this woman, she was there reportedly stuck in the traffic because of the rally for an hour, after which she decided to go and confront the minister in a very harsh language, which the minister has also now reacted to.
Right, Anuj, absolutely. And she further points out that why did the protest not take place in an empty ground nearby? But thanks for getting us the latest and sharing that context of the sequence of events which took place in Mumbai earlier today. Well, a chilling and deeply disturbing murder in Bengaluru, where what happened to be a romantic gesture turned into a calculated act of brutality. A 27-year-old woman allegedly enticed her boyfriend to a home in South Bengaluru, blindfolded him and tied him to a chair, telling him that she was planning a new age proposal. But what followed was horrifying. Police say that the woman, identified as Prerna, then poured a flammable liquid on the man. Kiran, her colleague and partner of over a year, set him on fire. Investigators say she was upset, claiming he had been ignoring her and refusing to marry her. In a chilling detail, police believe that she recorded the entire act on camera, watching as he burnt. Kiran died at the scene. The accused is now in police custody as investigators piece together what they are calling a premeditated and cold-blooded killing. A relationship that spiraled into obsession, ending in a crime that has shocked the city. Well, it's been a year since the deadly terror attack in Pelgam that claimed 26 innocent lives. The attack has left behind irreparable wounds. With a year passing since the attack, tributes have poured in, remembering the lives lived and lost to terror. Prime Minister Modi remembered the innocent lives lost and said that the country would never bow to any form of terror.
बहुत ज़्यादा मुश्किल से गया है ये साल। मुझे अभी भी पता है कि मैं जब आँख बंद करती हूँ तो मैं वही कश्मीर की सेम घटना में पहुँच जाती हूँ। जिस तरीके से ये सारी चीज़ें हुई तो मेरी आँखों के सामने पूरी घूम जाती है। उस चीज़ को शब्दों में बयान करना बहुत मुश्किल है कि एक लाइफ पार्टनर की कमी कहाँ महसूस होती है। हर एक सेकंड जब आप कुछ अच्छा करके आते हो तब भी चाहिए बताने के लिए। जब आपकी लाइफ में पूरे दिन में कोई ऐसा डिफ़िकल्ट टाइम है कि उसे शेयर करना है तो भी लाइफ पार्टनर चाहिए। कोई अच्छी बातें हैं माँ बाप से करी है वो भी लाइफ पार्टनर। हर एक चीज़ में आपको लाइफ पार्टनर का रोल बहुत बड़ा होता है।
This is the day Pelgam will never forget. This is the day Kashmir will never forget. This is the day when innocent people were killed here in Pelgam, and this is the day when Kashmiris stood up against terrorism and made their voice loud and clear that not in our name. Terrorism cannot be unleashed in their name, and you cannot kill innocent people in our name. And today, this newly built memorial stands here as a solemn tribute to those innocent people who are killed. One of them is a Kashmiri local Poniwala, Sayyid Adil Hussain Shah, who stood there against terrorists, fought them and sacrificed his life. He is a symbol of resistance and resilience in Kashmir. It is the day when all Kashmiris came together and sent a message that you cannot kill innocent people in our name. We cannot unleash terror here, and we will remain silent. This also changed the security paradigm in Kashmir and in the whole, rather, subcontinent, when India decided that if terrorism crosses a line, then there would be the consequences, and that was Operation Sindoor. And Army has now again sent this message: certain red lines should never be crossed.
Well, it's been 1 year, like we told you, since the terror attack in Pelgam that claimed the lives of innocent people. Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tribute earlier today. He said, and I'm quoting him here, "We remember the innocent lives lost in the Pelgam terror attack. They will never be forgotten." Across the world, tributes continue to pour in for the victims as humanity stands united against violence and terror.
Today, India marks 1 year since the barbaric terror attack in Pelgam, Kashmir, where 26 innocent lives were lost. On behalf of Israel, I extend our deepest condolences to the families of the victims and to the people of India. We stand with you in grief and in solidarity. For us in Israel, this pain is deeply familiar. On October 7th, we witnessed similar brutality against our own people. These tragedies remind us that terror has no borders. India and Israel stand united in the fight against terrorism. We remain committed to confronting this threat together with resolve and determination.
Well, as India marks the anniversary of the Pelgam massacre, the pain remains raw, but so does the resolve. Our next report looks back at the tragedy, the faces we lost, and the price that was made to be paid.
उसको गोली मार दी।
A bustling tourist hotspot in Kashmir, where terror snuck out of the woods and struck unsuspecting tourists. Baisaran Valley in Pelgam, called Mini Switzerland, saw the bloodbath on this day last year. April 22nd, 2025. 26 tourists killed. Survivors said the terrorists, 3 of them, separated the men from the women and children and shot them at close range before fleeing into dense jungle. The terrorists specifically targeted men after asking whether they were Hindus or Muslims. A picture of dazed Himanshi Narwal, married just a week ago, slumped next to her husband's body. Naval officer Lieutenant Vinay Narwal. It became the defining image of the attack, which shook the nation. The Resistance Front, a proxy of the Pakistan-based UN-designated terror group Lashkar-e-Toiba, claimed responsibility for the attack.
22 तारीख की जो अप्रैल की घटना है, 2:30 बजे का समय था। मैं उसी में हूँ। मेरी आंखें खुली रहती है या बंद होती है ना, मेरे सामने उनका वो गोलियों से लगा हुआ और खून से गिरा हुआ जो चेहरा है, वही जो उनका पड़ा हुआ शरीर है, वही मुझे दिखता है।
ये इंसिडेंट हम पता नहीं कितने करोड़ बार इस 1 साल में जिए हैं, अभी भी जी रहे हैं। 1 साल में मुझे लगता है कि दुनिया में बहुत चेंजेस हुए, पर हमारे लाइफ में कुछ चेंज नहीं हुआ है। हम आज भी उसी दुख को लेके जी रहे हैं साथ में।
A solemn memorial now stands as a tribute to the 26 lives lost in the ghastly attack. As the nation's blood boiled over the brutal attack, Modi's government suspended the Indus Water Treaty, expelled Pakistani diplomats and closed borders.
हमले की साजिश रचने वालों को उनकी कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा मिलेगी।
India carried out Operation Sindoor in retaliation for the Pelgam attack, destroying terror infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Back in Kashmir, security forces tracked terrorist movement, scanning the dense forests. Operation Mahadev, spanning over 250 kilometers of mountains and forests, and more than 100 days later, neutralized all the 3 terrorists in a swift and precise engagement. A year to the massacre in Pelgam, India won't forget, and India won't forgive. All right, we have some breaking news for you, and this is regarding, of course, the tributes pouring in on the Pelgam terror attack. In the latest US envoy to India, Sergio Gore's message to India on the anniversary of the Pelgam terror attack. On the 1-year anniversary of the horrific attack in Pelgam, we remember the innocent victims and honor their memory as we mourn with their families. The US stands with the people of India in their fight against terrorism, and that's the big statement. That's the message of condolence as tributes pour in as India marks 1 year since the ghastly Pelgam terror attack. That was the US envoy to India, Sergio Gore, saying that US stands with India in its fight against terrorism. Remember, Prime Minister Modi also early in the day paid tributes to the Pelgam terror victims and said that India will not forget and India will not forgive. On that note, we slip into a very short break, but come right back. Nationwide at 6 coming up next.
On NDTV today, we're joined by Ambassador Denis Alipov, the Russian ambassador to India. The India-Russia relationship is one that is seen to have been able to sustain through a lot of turbulence.
The relations between our countries have been very consistent. They're comprehensive in nature. The contacts between the leaders have been regular.
The issue of Russian oil has been weaponized for over a year now.
Our oil supplies have substantially increased. India is buying a lot of Russian oil recently.
But as things stand right now, the Strait of Hormuz and the nuclear issues seem to be issues where no obvious formula presents itself.
They can continue fighting, but that would only aggravate the situation. Both the Russian government and the Indian government stand for stability, for dialogue, and for peace in the world.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand. Motorola Signature, India's #1 camera phone. Grab Motorola Signature today.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
बीजेपी 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 जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद
a special edition of the Walk the Talk with public intellectual Swapan Das Gupta doing this Gali Gali, Mohalla Mohalla. This is not quite what people associate with you.
In political life, if you don't do this, I will say Swapan Das Gupta, BJP candidate, then you're missing out on the big thing.
TMC's been appealing to this regional pride, Bengali pride.
I am as much a meat eater or a fish eater as anyone else.
Religion has never been central to West Bengal politics. The BJP seems to be trying hard to change that.
Large number of Bengalis see themselves, apart from being Bengalis, also as Hindus.
How do you respond to the charge leveled by the Trinamool that the BJP is fighting this election in alliance with the Election Commission?
10 people only voted in West Bengal.
कुछ बड़ा होने वाला है।
आज तृणमूल कांग्रेस के वोट दिते হবে
জয় বাংলা
নমস্কার আমি শশী পাজা প্লিজ ভোট ফর মি
As she crisscrosses the paras of North Kolkata, can the Trinamool hold on to its passion or will Didi be bested by the BJP? As people assess the 15-year track record of your government, the fact that there's been petty corruption prevalent in a key part of the system.
Of course, we have reprimanded them and they have been taken to book.
Himanta Biswa Sharma has been able to set up or get the process started of bringing semiconductor industry into a state like Assam.
Industrial giants are somehow demotivated to come to Bengal.
In and around Kolkata, that the Trinamool has been able to push the BJP's challenge, unlike North Bengal. The BJP thinks this election that will change.
When North Bengal tried to pay the communal card, you wiped away 50% of the electorate.
It is Khalaobe again in Bengal. Who will
Welcome back. You're watching Nationwide at 6 with me, Raisha Sehgal. Our top focus today is that the top court heat on Mamata Banerjee on the eve of the polling in West Bengal in the IPAC case. This SCS called the situation extraordinary. Also on the show today, Kharge's terror dig draws BJP outrage comment, clarification and also counter back, wherein Kharge says that he did not call Prime Minister Modi a terrorist, but he rather used the word terrorism. Lots more